mystical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome everybody on in to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our Monday Night Roundtable. This time here to cover the Ramy Youssef and Travis Scott episode of Saturday Night Live. My name is John from the SNN. Very excited to be with you, and also thank our presenting partner tonight, LateNighter.com, for putting together this show. I am so grateful to be back on the podcast. I missed all of you on Saturday night. It's just a routine. It's a ritual now. I watch SNL and then I talk about it. And I had an amazing weekend. I'm so thankful for that as well. But yeah, it's just fun to be back home with all of you and talk about the show. So I can't wait to talk about my experience this weekend. I'll do that on Wednesday night when I'll be on By the Numbers with Mike Murray. So I'll make sure to talk about all that. But tonight we're here to cover a new episode of Saturday Night Live and talk about everything we saw this weekend with some great guests. So let me bring in our panel tonight. First up is someone who I did get to see this weekend when I was in New York City, and that is the lovely Rachel Chang. Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing great. It was so wonderful to see you in my hometown of Hoboken, New Jersey, and I hope you had a safe drive home.
I did, yes.
I made New Jersey.
I made it home last night. It was a long drive, but it was good. And let me just, I'll tell the story. So Rachel, I met her for the first time in person over the weekend. Super nice, just so happy to be there. And then I got a great text on Sunday morning when I was exhausted and sort of recovering from the night before that she was emptying out her apartment and needed to get rid of some stuff. And she was like, why did I buy one of those SNL shirts that, they give out those concert tees? She's like, why did I buy one from the Dakota Johnson and Justin Timberlake episode? I didn't need that. So then she walked over and gave it to me. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. So thank you, Rachel. I appreciate
I'm so glad it's in the hands of somebody who appreciates it now.
Yes. For one of those people on the back of the shirt, I enjoy. So thank you, Rachel, for that. It's so great to see you and looking forward to chatting about the episode with you. We didn't talk about this in advance, so excited to chat with you tonight. And joining us as well is the great Zoe Walker. Zoe, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I have a tiny microphone for the first time ever, so I'm a real podcaster. I'm very excited about that and excited to talk about the episode.
Yes. Is that in reference to the tiny desk sketch?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Well, I know a guy who doesn't have a tiny personality. He's got a big personality, and that is the great TJ Randolph. TJ, how are you?
John, I'm offended because I would have preferred to have been called lovely than great. But other than that, I am glad to be here. I'm happy to be here. The lovely TJ Randolph is happy to be on the SNL network. I am fresh off of letting my mind be mush after a lot of hard work assignments. The past few weeks I've just been watching reality shows like Love is Blind, The Circle, and House of Villains. Just got into The Circle. That's some good reality TV. And I am I'm feeling calm. I'm feeling refreshed. I'm ready to be here to talk about high art, which is Saturday Night Live. That's high art, right? Sure. Yeah. We'll make it high art. And then
it's the highest of arts.
Oh, absolutely. And then it'll probably be, I'm excited for this so that I can also then go right back to watching The Circle the minute we are done recording. Other than that, it's great to be here.
All right. Well, we're going to have some fun tonight. I can't wait to get into this episode. So we start things off, as we do every week, with a discussion of the host that was booked for this episode. And we have a stand-up comic named Ramy Youssef, who is hosting Saturday Night Live. He comes from an Egyptian background. Definitely in his sets, he talks about diversity and that, the importance of that. He was at Just for Laughs this past summer and sold out the place. So I got to, when I was doing media of Just for Laughs, I saw his name all over the place. And had a show on Hulu and some specials come out recently, and he's definitely blowing up. And I love that Saturday Night Live is going back to some of their roots in bringing in stand-ups to host the show. We posted some graphics this week about this being one of the seasons with the largest amount of first-time hosts that are stand-ups, and I think that's a really inspired hosting choice from the producers for this season. So I was excited to see him, especially coming off somebody earlier in the season like a Nate Bargatze, who maybe wasn't as well known in these streets, but then proved himself really well. And I feel like Ramy definitely showed that he has some great qualities to bring to the SNL stage. So Rachel, what were your thoughts when you saw Ramy Youssef was hosting SNL?
I was unfamiliar with Ramy, but there's something about him that was just so immediately likable, especially on that first promo. I think the most I knew about him going in was learning from that promo that he was from New Jersey, and I love that he gave Jersey a positive shout out to counter all of Che's anti-Jersey jokes of the week. And I also just love that he really spoke about diversity, that being Egyptian, being Muslim was such a big part of the episode. I love that SNL has gotten so much more diverse, and not just bringing in diverse hosts, but letting them really integrate that into the sketches. And this just between the immigrant dad and I just feel like there was so much of it, and I think this is what we need. And I was so glad to have him as the host.
Yeah, I mean, a couple times this season, I walked away feeling like this doesn't feel like a Lorne Michaels produced episode of Saturday Night Live, just because, there was about 5 years in the 80s where Lorne wasn't the showrunner. And during those years, at least for a few of them, it felt like when hosts would come in, the show was written all in their voice. Like they didn't have to be in everything, but the stuff that they were in was clearly their style of comedy. And I'm not saying that this is a perfect one for one here, but I do feel like the show made a concerted effort this week to write things that would be for Ramy and Ramy's fans. So it was a really interesting thing to watch. And I thought it was a special show and clearly meant a lot to a lot of people. Zoe, what were your thoughts when you heard that Ramy was coming in to host SNL?
I was excited. Not that I'm a huge fan of his. I feel like I've seen one episode of his show and like 15 minutes of his stand-up specials. But I was excited because I feel like I know he's funny. Like I saw his face and I was like, I trust him. I know he's funny. He has fans. I have friends who are fans of his. And I also agree with what Rachel said. It was so cool to have him, especially during Ramadan, to be able to represent that culture and just kind of diversify SNL in an awesome way.
Yeah, it was Ramadan on Saturday.
Oh my God! Please tell me you did not say that to him in person. I know I saw you. I know you saw you and James met him. You better not have said that to him.
I did not. I behaved myself.
I know you. Did you think of it like when you were at the show too?
I thought of it during the show, and I was like trying to incept it into Haskell to like who's hosting the hot take show.
Jesus Christ!
Waiting for the right moment for that one. Yeah, well, I agree, Zoe. I mean, TJ, I'd love to know your thoughts also about Ramy Youssef.
So Ramy, it's definitely more on a neutral. Like I knew Ramy's name because I'm a big Hulu watcher. And before I got a Hulu with no commercials plan, like one of the last like ads I remember seeing on Hulu for the longest time was like Ramy's show that came out, I think about almost 5 years ago now. Jesus Christ. So I remember seeing a bunch of ads for it. I remember thinking like, this isn't really like speaking to me, but it like seems like something that's like a little different from the things I've watched a lot of. And then I knew he was also he directed an episode of The Bear that I liked.
Yes.
And he was also great show. Jesus Christ, such a good show. Don't know why it's listed as a comedy. And also love the New Jersey shout out because even though I'm a Jersey transplant, like I'm living here about a year and a half, people really do like love the shit on this state, and I see why sometimes. Like I've driven on Jersey roads, some of it we deserve it, but like I do always appreciate like the pride because this place definitely has like a lot there is to love. And I know he was also in that Emma Stone movie, Poor Things, that like I'll be honest, as much as I love Emma Stone, I don't want to see her try to figure out how to walk for 2 hours. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's a good look for me. I know she won an Oscar. I know. I haven't seen the movie. I've just seen the trailers, but I'm like, don't want to watch a white woman try to figure out how to walk. Like, I'm good. Pass. But I know that seems to be. I know it's so crazy because I haven't seen the movie. But like I know that he's like seems pretty well received. The only question I had was, and I don't normally. I mean, this is like a dig. I genuinely was a curiosity. I didn't know why now. Like, was it because of Poor Things? Like, was it because of his Just for Last? Is it because I know that I could have sworn on Max I saw that he has an HBO special coming out. Like, I didn't know if maybe it was because of the special, but like,
well, let me tell you, right? Because we get these emails that come in from NBC. So they put Ramy Youssef will host SNL for the first time on March 30th. The multi-hyphenate's new stand-up special. Hyphenate, interesting word. Rachel, is that a journalism word? Hyphenate?
Oh yes, definitely. We use it a lot. There are a lot of
think Donald Glover, think Justin Timberlake, think like your triple threats, your I hate to say it, Leah Michelle's. God, I can't stand that woman. Sorry, I know.
All right.
Sorry,
The multi-hyphenate
sorry.
news.
It came out of nowhere. I was
Yeah,
watching
new
all the
stat-
Glee documentaries lately.
I got it. The multi-hyphenate
Sorry.
new stand-up special, Ramy Youssef, More Feelings, debuts March 23rd on HBO. So
That's it.
it was
Okay.
to promote a special. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I actually find it really cool when SNL brings in people, and I mean this in the nicest way, like on the upswing of their career. Like, it is cool to know that this guy, who is clearly extremely talented and has already done a lot, but from watching on Saturday and now like critically evaluating why a show like SNL would book him, he's going to go on and become an even bigger star. And like, then it's interesting, does he come back at a later point in his career when he's even bigger? Like, these are the types of things I like thinking about sometimes, because yeah, we could bring in the established people who have been around for a long time. I just like it when SNL on a week-to-week basis does something different. And I felt like this was different and inspired. And I thought he was a really strong host. The things I enjoy this weekend, like I felt like he was a stabilizer in, like he really just, I wouldn't say that he carried a specific sketch, but I think that he really stabilized a lot of them and made them solid. It was almost like a really good utility player that you could envision in a cast or two. And I also,
Oh, sorry.
he did. And I also felt like his monologue, the content of it was super strong, but something that I wanted to point out while we're still just general Ramy Youssef talk is that the way that he connected with the audience to me was something different than I've seen other stand-ups do on the show, in that he was like looking all around the room. Like if you go back and you watch that, like look at his eyes, like he's telling a certain set, like part of his set, and he's like looking up in the balcony, and then he's looking up on another side, and he's like really connecting with people. And maybe it was because I met him in person and got to talk to him, but he has like a very warm presence about him that I think is going to lead him to a ton of success. So I could see why everybody at the show enjoyed working with him this week. And I think this was a very successful booking. Anyone else have anything they want to say about Ramy before we start getting into the show? Nope. All right, let's do it. Let's jump into the cold open this week. Let's talk about what we saw. So here we go. Cold open. First one of this new block of shows with known as the Resurrection Cold Open, or Easter Cold Open, as they put it online. JAJ comes in to play Donald Trump for the 19th time. So we see this after a few episodes away, 4 episodes since we last saw it. It's kicked off basically with the 3 Marys, Sarah Sherman, Chloe Fineman, and Heidi Gardner standing out there. And you think it's going to be something different, but as SNL fans, we all know that President Trump is, or ex-President Trump, or maybe future President Trump is coming in to talk, and JJ is going to go on a rant about Bibles, and we get the typical stuff here. So this is clearly a JAJ written piece with some of the usual writers that he likes to write with, and he's going to go on a Trump rant. How did you all feel about it? Rachel, I'll start with you.
I have mixed feelings because I feel that's not the way to start out.
It's
Girl,
okay.
why'd you breathe in so hard? Why you gearing up?
All right, let's go. Let's hear it. What'd you think?
I feel like it fulfilled what it needed to fulfill, but I don't want to say I was bored, but it was just, most of it was just JJ standing there, and we've seen that before. I wanted more going on. I love the part with the 3 Marys. I love the part when he excused the 3 Marys. The set design was amazing. I love that stone and how it turned. There were some great lines in there. There were some great I love the Hello Kitty. I just thought that was such a silly thing. I have a toaster that has designs and no Hello Kitty, but I thought that was a nice little bit. And I love if you have a daughter or perhaps a son who's taking dance lessons, which maybe because I've watched Baby J too many times, but Mulaney says, ask your daughter or son if he's not an athlete. So it immediately reminded me of that during Baby J. And then the stream of thoughts that he usually does, like it always hits something great, like the Michelle Williams, almost like the white Michelle Williams versus the black Michelle Williams. There were some great things tucked in there, but I could have used a minute or 2 shaved off of this. I wanted to either see more people integrated or see more than just him standing there. I mean, when you have Scarlett Johansson standing there, there was there was Katie Britt, did I get her name right?
Yeah.
That there was at least it felt like there was an ebb and flow, where this just felt like it just kept going.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is it's hard to compare, right? To me, it's a little apples and oranges because Katie Britt, obviously, somebody who we hadn't ever seen played on the show. I think all of America was hating Katie Britt at that moment, so everyone was on board to be like, let's make fun of this woman. But this is like a little bit more divisive. Whatever you choose to believe in, and I think it was interesting to me because, watching this cold open, which did feel similar to others, even though there were some funny jokes. And I do think JJ is absolutely so talented and so fantastic with this impression. And it goes without saying. It's funny how, like, in the real time, it feels so samey to things that we've seen. And then it's hard to celebrate it because it feels so similar to things we've seen other weeks. But I think, like, over time on rewatch, like, people look back at these things and they're like, oh yeah, that was this year's Easter cold open. And that was the time that he did this. And I think there's moments that start to stand out as you start to wash away from, like, living in the moment of something like this. Zoe, I am curious from you, how do you feel about the cold open this week?
So I don't usually pay attention when he comes out as Trump. Like, my brain shuts off because I don't try to pay attention to Trump. But anyways, when he jumped out, I don't know if I have slow pattern recognition or just not paying attention, but I was genuinely surprised when he came out as Trump. I thought Jesus was going to come out. That's who I thought was coming. But I thought it was funny. I thought it was a little bit long. The thing that really got me was when he said beep, beep, bing, bong, trespass, daily bread. I was like, that's funny. So I think it was funny. And then the one thing I do have to say is $60 for a Bible, especially a King James Version Bible with the Declaration of Independence and the pledge in it is too much for a Bible because all three of those things are in public domain. So when he said too much for a Bible, I looked into the Bible and it is crazy to pay $60 because you're really only paying for God Bless America.
Well,
Actually,
what about?
I got a little stuff for that, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
So I used to be like a practicing Christian for like 25 years, so I got some things. But the condensed version of that reaction I had is, when I lived in Pennsylvania, there was a very popular Christian bookstore that was like near my area, and that some people would go. It was like a very popular spot. And at the bookstore, I remember walking in. I was a teenager. I was probably like 16, 17. I'd had like a Bible. I had like a Bible, and then you always, at some point, Christians love gifting each other Bibles. I don't know why the fuck. Like, I don't get it. I had a girlfriend once try to give me a Bible for my birthday. I put a stop on that real quick. We're not together anymore.
Is that why you broke up?
No. We broke up for other reasons, but like, it was the year that I broke up with her. It was definitely a few months beforehand, but it was very much like she didn't know me kind of thing. She was like, I'll get up a Bible. It's sweet. Like, I don't know if she thought I need Jesus. At the time I had Jesus. But what I'm trying to get at, actually, in reaction to what you're saying, is that the Bibles at this Christian bookstore I went to, I remember so specifically, it's been burned in my mind for over 10 years, $122. And I remember thinking, oh, is this just like one Bible that has like gemstones on it? No, like it was like all around. Now, granted, it was also
Trump selling them for a good price, is what you're saying. Like,
so no, because Bibles are cheap. Like, I looked them up online yesterday. This was like late 2000s, and I looked them up yesterday. And like Zoe is talking about, like, it's a bad $60 is a bad price for a Bible, because I saw like $17.
What's a good price for a Bible?
$5.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that like Bible prices are what people make them because this bookstore upcharge them, because it's also a Christian bookstore. Like, it only has a select audience, so of course they're gonna charge like double that for a Bible. Also,
because my people only buy half Bibles, so I don't know.
I just want to say, like, also, who on earth wants the Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights in a song lyrics with a Bible? What dork wants that? That's so lame.
Look, let's not Bible shame. Maybe
no, I will Bible shame. I come from that race. I'll Bible shame all I want to. Like, who would want those things together? I know Bible people. I know good Christians, and that is a disgrace. Like, it's a straight up slap in the face. Also, the Bible's not American. It's from Judea. Sorry, I have like such a thing about it. Like, it's not even American. Christianity is not American in origin, and we constantly. Sorry, John.
Well, I think let's talk about SNL, because the thing is that
that was on me, John. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, Zoe. I had that ready.
You two at the bottom here causing trouble.
Wow. Zoe, you hear how he's knowing us?
Oh God. Why? I should have stayed in New York. But you know what's interesting here is like, hey, we're having a whole like really fascinating discussion about Bibles and Bible selling and stuff like that. And like part of me sort of just wishes that like the cold open wasn't just like, hey, here's my Bible, and maybe more of like there was something there to be mined out of it. But yeah, look, I think he's funny. And you know what else I think really works for me in these is that he's begun this like new pattern of like the meta Trump, where it's almost like JJ as Trump is bigger than the sketch. Like there's no, the walls are always broken in a JJ Trump rant, meaning that like at any point the sketch can break down and he could just talk as if he is like running Saturday Night Live. So we got that Deadpool. With the whole right. Exactly.
He's SNL Deadpool is what he
exactly
is.
So that's what I'm saying is like he could just like get everybody to freeze, or he could do the whole like,
all right, girls, you can go. No more lines. You did great. Bye-bye.
No more lines.
Hey man, big fan of the pod.
So
all
sorry.
right, girls.
Sorry, yeah, that was a I need to fix my soundboard. Sorry, but I was gonna say I'll cut that in post. but yes, that was so basically that was what I saw in the sketch here again, and it's something that I found kind of interesting because they did a couple sketches that were completely based around that, but now it was sort of a throwaway line, and I'm wondering if like that could potentially be the future of the JJ Trump character. That could he be the guy that whenever he comes out breaks the fabric of the sketch? And that to me is more interesting.
I do like that angle. Here's my worry though, and I'm hearing it in your voice. I'm hearing it in some of the time when I'm listening to the podcast. I think we're on the cusp, and I might have said this already. I think we're on the cusp, or within like literally a few weeks, of us hitting Alec Baldwin Trump fatigue. The difference is, I do, and it's just my opinion, I think JJ's Trump is funnier. I think it's more unique. I think it has more spiciness to add. Like, because he can throw in a riff about Taylor Swift and then a Hello Kitty piece of toast. Not gonna lie, that's pretty prime stuff. It's pretty good. Like, who would have seen that coming? It's pretty funny. But I think in terms of like the fact that what felt weird about this, to Rachel's point about it feeling a little static, is we got a monologue before a monologue. And did that feel a little weird for anyone else? Like, it was like, if I wanted to watch like a few stand-up sets, I would go and do that. But it just, I don't know what the other sketch could have been. Like, I also get that you really don't want to have like the Jesus resurrection like angle, because like Christians get sensitive as hell. And like you wouldn't, like, I get that like SNL wouldn't want to piss some people off. I understand that. But it just felt a little static, even though I did laugh at some pieces, and I'm wondering if we're so close, we're like one or two Marvel movies away from like hitting that fatigue.
I kind of disagree. Like, I do feel like the Baldwin Trump thing, for me at least, and I know that like maybe I'm not everybody where I maybe like have a large swath of comparisons, because pre Alec Baldwin Trump, the Obama administration didn't really get covered in the same way that most presidential administrations do on SNL. So for like a lot of modern viewers who have been watching for the last, like, call it, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, all they can talk about, in comparison to this presidential, impression is the Trump, Baldwin one. And I don't really see them as the same, because I really feel like Alec Baldwin has such like a hate for Trump. And I'm not saying that JJ doesn't, but he has such a hate that it came through. Like, it almost felt like it was so aggressive every single time, because Trump would tweet about how Baldwin was doing it on a Saturday night. So they're like, let's just make this guy as gross and disgusting as possible through the character. But I feel like this is more of like, let's take what we know about the guy and exaggerate it a little bit and go in different directions and maybe say things that we think he would say, but he's not exactly saying that. And that to me is more like Dana Carvey's George H.W. Bush than it is the Trump impression. Like, and for what it's worth, they did that like every single week. And I don't know in the 80s if people were complaining, but that's what it feels like to me a little bit.
It is a great impression. I do enjoy it. Like, I didn't know I could enjoy it. Like, I thought when I didn't enjoy Alex after a certain point, that I thought it was my irritation with Trump. The fact that ninja is selling Bibles and sneakers, I thought it was the Trump shade of it all. And maybe it is the fact that we're not under another Trump presidency that makes it a little easier to take this. Because I do think if Trump got elected again, I don't know if I can handle like JJ every week. I don't know. Like, I like what JJ does. I think it might be a little much for some of us.
See, what's interesting is that like I think that they, from an SNL perspective, and like Rachel, Zoe, like jump in because I want to hear your thoughts on this. Like, I think SNL is like just so focused on let's gear up, like we're revving the engine to get going to cover the election. I don't even think they're thinking about like what it's gonna look like in January of 2025, when whatever is going to be after the election and whoever's in office then. They're like, oh, we'll worry about that later. Maybe we'll cover it. Maybe we won't even do the impression if nothing big is happening. Like, to me, it's all about like, let's set up the audience for these two people to go to war.
John, I am wondering, and I mean this, I'm wondering, you're in Canada and we're in the States. Like, so it is more prevalent in American minds because it is very like it doesn't impact you. It's more of an
no. I just mean from an SNL perspective, not from like a human being walking around the U.S. perspective. I'm saying how SNL will cover them in the future. I think they're just thinking about what's happening in the next few months.
I don't know. Like, think about like how Cecily and Kate were. Like, it was on their mind and it was very prevalent. Like, it's on Americans' minds is what I'm saying. Like, it like the idea. Like, you're not also driving around seeing Trump signs. Like,
yeah, but I think you're. I don't know if you're hearing what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying, like, I don't think that people are at the show are not worried about it. I'm saying I don't think
I'm disagreeing.
Producers. Okay, all right. Well, Rachel,
well,
Zoe, what do you
respectfully.
Yeah.
I think SNL would be worried about getting ready for the election because it's SNL. They're known for political sketches. They're known for political cold opens and president impersonations. So it just makes sense that they're gonna make him stretch his muscles and beat Trump more often.
Yeah. Rachel, what do you think?
I think it's definitely a rev up for November. I mean, or leading up to November. I just wonder if in this day and age where we're also visual, if just him standing there is enough, though. Like, why couldn't they have put him in a situation? Like, why couldn't he have been, I'm stealing this from our friends on the Hot Take Show, but going door to door selling Bibles or something where it's a little bit more taking those same jokes and putting it in different situations rather than just standing there, like you said.
Yeah, to me, it's like they're just doing everything they can, in my opinion, to avoid having Biden and Trump in the same sketch yet. Like, I don't think we're getting that in season 49 in any capacity, and I know that's not the what you're talking about with the door-to-door Bible salesman, as they talked about in the Hot Take Show, but I think they're just trying to, like, these two are operating independently of each other in their own worlds, and then there's going to be so many promos from NBC, like starting at the Olympics all the way through the premiere in October of like Trump v. Biden going to war. And it's going to be the Mikey Day and the JAJ posters and all that stuff. And like, they're basically like working their way up to that. So to me, this is all like the appetizer to the main course that will occur once we get that in the fall. But yeah, TJ, you could be right. I don't know what their plans are for after the election. Maybe they're thinking about those things, but I think we said all we had to say on this one. Let's get into the episode and talk about the sketches that we really want to get into. So would love to start here with the first sketch in chronological order of the night. And that would be from TJ. So TJ, tell us the sketch that you want to talk about.
So I want to talk about couple goals. And dear listeners, I just want to say this. I don't think couple goals is a great sketch. I think it's okay. And it did make me laugh. But actually, no, I did laugh at the sketch, but I don't think it's like, like SNL top tier. The reason I want to talk about it is specifically, there's just a lot of weird little things that I enjoyed about this that felt like a little bit of dark male honesty. And I'm not saying it necessarily relates to my experience, but I'm saying there are men out there that have wondered some things, and I don't think we talk about it enough. I don't think this is like a political, like, important sketch. This is not a Lena Dunham level of this is important. We need to talk about it. Like, no, like, I just think this is, I need to figure out. I didn't think about how I was going to do this. Okay, so there is just something about the idea of being blamed for. There's something. This is going to sound so weird. I'm sorry, listeners, because I'm putting it together as I'm speaking. There's something about the worry about being blamed for a crime you didn't commit, even when the situation that's actively going on is totally normal. I'm not going to use the killing your wife thing because I feel like that's a little much. I'll say like let's say like I'm just like myself. I'm like, let's say I'm like walking in New York City, and like I don't know, like let's say like I see like a woman on the sidewalk. I'm like, oh, New York City's like really busy. If it's like really dark out and it's just us, I'm more likely to cross to the side of the road because I'm like, I don't want nothing to happen. Like I don't want anybody to think that something's gonna. I don't even want somebody to think that something's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm a brother and I'm just being myself, like out here in these streets. So I'm using that as an equivalent to the idea that Ramy is worried that someone's gonna think he killed his wife, which is like so ridiculous because in all those, everybody's seen those true crime things where it's like, oh, like the husband did it. And so I guess it is kind of funny to not think about like the situation where the husband did it, but the guy worried about being blamed as the husband who did it, which I know is like a really weird workaround. Guys, like I know it's not perfect, but there is something funny to be like, what sparked that thought?
Yeah, and I get what you're saying because I actually think through all of your trying to figure it out, you articulated that really well. And in a way, I wonder if you articulated that better than the sketch did. With all respect to the sketch writers and me actually thinking there's some good stuff here in this sketch. But if that was the point of it, which was that we're supposed to get out of it, that one of these couples, through them answering questions and through the game show, one of them is a guy admitting that he has anxiety over what he thinks, when he's going to get in trouble for anything that may be super innocent. I don't know that fully came across to me.
Yeah. I don't know if that was really supposed to be the center point of the sketch. I guess that was like my biggest takeaway seems to be sort of its focus point, which was like this like dark inherent male honesty of like, it seemed very much, I guess the more common way to relate it is it feels like there's a common interest that people have nowadays in intrusive thoughts. And so Mikey has intrusive thoughts about what's it like to be with a man? Let's be honest, fellas. Every man has wondered it. We may not have traveled fully down the road, but every person is. What I mean is every person has wondered about their own sexuality, and a lot of times you might find like, okay, I'm at this place. Sometimes you might find like, oh, I'm open to some things, and so like every man, men don't want to admit it, but everyone has at least wondered, am I gay? No, okay, cool. Like, and then you go back to eating eggs. Like it's just this intrusive,
or like
male intrusive
cat stuff.
What?
So this is the sketch. The sketch.
Sorry. What I guess I'm saying is like, even though this isn't like a great sketch, I don't think because this was our first sketch out of the show, correct? This is our first one after the monologue. This is not. This is not a sketch I'll remember even like a week from now. But this was a big takeaway I have of like that intrusive thoughts kind of thing, and it just made me think. There's lots of intrusive thoughts we all sort of have, and I thought there was a little bit of fun there. Also, I laughed way too hard at Bob the Builder. I'm sorry. It was just who's the person at SNL coming up with these names? They're sneaking them in episodes. Look,
it's PDD and Dan Bula who write this sketch. So basically, and by the way, this is the second edition of the sketch. We previously got this in the Quinta Brunson episode of season 48. But I think you hit on something, TJ, and I want to go to Rachel and Zoe for their thoughts on the sketch, which is that, is this the game show of intrusive thoughts? If that is the case, I love every minute of that because I think intrusive thoughts is something that is like perfect for sketch comedy. Maybe it's not the actual sketch itself between the partners that maybe I take issue with. Maybe it's the structure of the game show. Maybe we really should be asking each other the truth about what we really think, as opposed to a couple trying to, test how well they know each other. Rachel, what are your thoughts on the couple goal sketch?
I feel like I'm at a book club and TJ just completely blew my mind open and gave me more appreciation for the sketch than I had.
What did I do?
I was just like, oh my gosh, so that's what it was about. I mean,
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what I took away. It's,
But also just what you said about feeling like you have to cross the street sometimes in New York, feeling like you'll get blamed for something. Like, that's not something that I'm the opposite. I cross the street to try to avoid a situation, right? Like,
we think about y'all too. We don't want to be near y'all. Like, yeah, I do not want to be like near women late at night. Like, I'm so good. Like, I have one white woman to take care of, and that's enough. Hard pass.
Like,
I try to keep Heather next to me at all times. Like, see her, I'm safe.
I just didn't think of this being that deep. I was kind of surprised it was the first sketch. I thought it was just yet another game show sketch. I was surprised that it had this prime position. I was like, I've seen this before. I know we literally saw it before the Quinta episode, but I just found myself wondering, why are we seeing this sketch now? And then I went on this whole thing in my head about what does timeliness have to, does timeliness of the original time it aired matter with a sketch? Because this could have aired any time in the last 50 years and still been relevant. And 49 years. Like, why now? And then I went on to this whole thing about, is it because I worked in magazines and I'm always thinking about timeliness? Does it matter? Because then I think about some of the sketches that stand out that are completely timeless, like something as silly as Deer from was it Nicki Minaj's episode? Like, I felt like it was just so
Megan Thee Stallion.
Sorry, Megan Thee Stallion. That's terrible that I just did that. But from that episode, that had no timeliness, but like that was just a great sketch in that moment. So then I started really going down this whole path of like, does timeliness matter? But like for this to have that prime position as the first sketch of the night, I was surprised. But now I'm rethinking all the thoughts I had before this, because I do think it's an intrusive thought sketch. And I did love that Heidi's character was not surprised by Mikey's admission of wondering what it was like to be with a man. Like that little subtle thing was like, it wasn't like, oh my God, like you have? It was like, oh, they clearly had talked about it before. It had come up before.
Yeah.
That was kind of a nice, like, I don't know. It really showed the tightness of their relationship since they know each other since they were 6.
But I think we brought this up last time this sketch aired, and I think they also may have brought this on the Bull and Hot Take show, which is like, I don't know. I really genuinely don't understand why Heidi and Mikey are not playing it straight in this sketch. I don't think that's like on them, because in fact, I think that I know TJ.
He's clearly playing a question.
Yeah, he's definitely.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I look, I know for a fact, even like they were, being goofy about it and being silly and playing up their characters at some point in the rehearsals. But just from a sketch writing perspective, like I do feel like it's just like a weird balance between like two couples where like one you're supposed to learn something from and the other one is supposed to stabilize the sketch, and in both cases they're both like throwing wrinkles into the through line, which if I ask the questions to the right people, I'm sure they'd say we're overthinking this, but ultimately I think it's a pretty simple thing of like basic sketch stuff where you're supposed to have a stabilizing element in the sketch, and I think you have 3 elements that are all destabilizing. One is the first couple, the second is the second couple, and the third is the host, who is sort of like sinister in the way that they're reading the cards. So there's really no straight man in the sketch at all, which causes like I think confusion for the audience and to how they're supposed to take it. But Zoe, I would love to know your thoughts on this sketch as well.
Well, I know this is literally why we are here, but you guys are really thinking about this one, because I didn't think anything about intrusive thoughts or different layers or destabilizing, like, okay, big words. But I didn't think it was groundbreaking at all or any way like that, but I thought it was a good way to ease Ramy into hosting. He was able to be comfortable and he had good chemistry with Ego, who looked stunning, by the way. I saw her, beautiful. Anyways.
She is stunning, yeah.
Yeah, she was beautiful in that sketch. A lot of the sketch was just him holding up a sign and the jokes being read, and he just had to react with his face. And so I think as long as he was engaging the audience with his face, he was able to build that confidence, and it kind of set us off on a good note for the night. But like, you guys can talk about intrusive thoughts. Like, I'm taking notes, Psych 101. Let's go.
Well, here's my
I think you nailed it.
Can I? First of all, and Zoe, I appreciate that, because like, look, not everybody's who's gonna listen to the show tonight is gonna feel that they needed to analyze this to death. They may have just enjoyed the basis of it, and that's okay. Where I will say, like I said, I mentioned something that I think could be maybe altered about the sketch, which is have the second couple play it more straight. Insert joke, but the host. For me as JJ is something that I think is really interesting, because JJ's line reads, I'm going to play a couple of these for you. So just we can, in case you forgot some of the things he was saying, let me play a couple of these. These are the first 2 moments where he's going to read something long that Ramy put on a card.
That you'll die in a bizarre accident, and even though I had nothing to do with it, the police will assume I did it after discovering how much I've complained about you in text messages to my friends.
Okay, so that's the first one. Then I'm going to play another one from JJ right over here.
If police can still read your text messages if you destroy your wife's phone right after your wife is crushed by the garage door or equivalent accident.
Now, I know I do the sound clips for this show, so maybe it's something I realize more than most people watching it live. But this is a weird case where I feel like the audience laughter may have ruined some of this sketch, because I think JAJ is a brilliant like sounding host and line reader, and I think that he could have played this to levels of like discuss the way that Michael Longfellow did earlier in the season with Question Quest, the way that Bill Hader's done many times, and he could have been reading like "You are a sick MFer" as he's going through this, but the laughing at the lines and the audience being so loud and almost drowning out his voice, I think makes it harder to grasp the things he's saying. So everything on the card becomes a complete blur. Anyone else get that at all?
I actually did have to go back and rewind because my own closed captioning was covering up the cards. So I had to go back. There were a couple words I didn't, especially the ends of the cards there was laughter was so loud that I didn't know what he said at all.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, look, it's just something to think about. There's things that I think could be adjusted here. Thought it was fun, and yeah, no, I was not in the audience on Saturday. I was at the show, but I wasn't in the audience. I see people are asking in the chat, but I'll talk about that more on Wednesday. But yeah, I wasn't actually. You won't hear my voice laughing at those. All right, let's get into another sketch that we want to talk about next. So I believe next up we have Rachel, who's going to talk about her sketch she wants to talk about.
I would love to talk about Immigrant Dad Talk Show. I do have an immigrant dad, obviously not from either of the cultures that was covered. In fact, arguably in my culture, the son would be the one that was revered. So that would have been a fun thing to if they had
kissing his dad.
What? No. I think that a son would be more valued than a daughter because they're carrying on the family name.
Okay,
yeah.
understood.
So just,
sorry,
yeah, not the SNL version of the son. But I think that the fact that they brought two cultures together just to really kind of draw the parallels between, and I love that when Mikey came in, he was like, "Hola," and your thing. Like that was so great because that's so accurate. We don't know your thing, most people, and the way he delivered it was just right on. And the little things that I feel like some of the little things that they just kind of threw in here and there were just so brilliant. I mean, Keenan just, of course, just his, it wasn't even just his expression. It's the way he stood. It was just so perfect with the flipping the burgers, like, eh. And the set, I thought the fact that it was a talk show, but it wasn't in a talk show set, it was in a backyard with the folding chairs, even the pineapple lights in the back, like the little details. There was like that weird bird fountain that was just random, that they were randomly sitting in front of. All the elements of the set were so perfect. And some of the little throwaway lines were like, "Oh, my daughter just spent the $1,200 at Sephora. I spent the weekend running around with my niece going to Sephora." So I'm like, that's so accurate right now with middle schoolers being obsessed with Sephora. So I just thought there was a lot that was buried into this. And it had a great escalation throughout. I mean, down to the piggyback ride at the end. I mean, that was just a perfect way to kind of build. And I think it just was a beautifully, it had a lovely flow to it. And it just was a great sketch overall.
I couldn't agree more. I think this was a fantastic sketch, and there were so many elements of it I loved. I think it felt not necessarily of this era. It was a little bit of a throwback moment for me just to see, this type of talk show exist on the show. The amount of people who were in the sketch, I think, was really well done. The focus on the two people, sort of like your sidekick, like your Gelman, who's like flipping burgers on the side, like that type of thing, and bringing in one guest with his son. I think all of this was really well timed out. So I'm thrilled you chose it, and I'm excited to talk about it. Zoe, how do you feel about the Immigrant Dad Talk Show?
I thought this was the best sketch of the night. I loved every minute of it. Like the ending didn't flop. It was hilarious all the way through. And I just love some of the lines like "thesis is a waste of time" and like "you want to live in the
Zoe,
worst place in the best place."
Here, let me play that one for the audience because I know they're gonna like this one.
I'm working on my thesis. I say this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, and I just thought it was perfect. And this weekend I watched that really sad documentary, but it had me thinking about Keenan and how he has been like an institution for so long. And he doesn't like get old. He's always funny. Like when they turned the camera to him, I was like, oh, he's still funny. Like that's so annoying that he can be so talented for so long and it never gets old. And I also loved Marcelo and Ramy in this. Like they had great chemistry. And then I want to shout out the makeup department because I'm looking at them and they look like two old guys. Like I thought it was great. I thought everyone put in their best work for this one.
Yeah, it was really well done. I think we talked a lot about Marcelo, how, he had a really good rookie season. And this year he's starting to really put his stamp on the show. Like you expect to see him in there. It's clear that the show is pushing him out. And, with, power comes responsibility, right? So we expect now that if you're going to be pushed as this potential future star of Saturday Night Live, you got to put up some stats. And I think here he's hitting home runs with the type of work he's doing. And I do think that for the first time, he's done some other good stuff on the show, but I really feel like for the first time since the Pedro Pascal, protective mom sketches, we have something here that Marcelo could anchor and could come back. And this could be a big part of his, SNL resume, where it doesn't have to be Ramy Youssef, who is the co-host of this sketch. It could be Marcelo and another, immigrant dad there together, or even Marcelo could anchor this on his own. I think he's that good at it. So for me, this is the type of thing that when you're watching a star being born on the show, you're seeing these moments and we're always going to look back and being like, oh yeah, that first immigrant dad talk show that he did, like that was sick. And there's a lot of this I really, really liked from this sketch. So TJ, what were your thoughts on it?
Honestly, John, Rachel, Zoe, I agreed so strongly with a lot of your sentiments about it being the sketch of the night. Like I truly think it was like the strongest. I was like, this is a solid one. It was giving, in terms of format, it was reminding me, like, I loved, John, that you said you call back to sort of old SNL because it reminded me sort of like Bronx Beat, or here's a talk show. So the talk show is usually like intro song, then like the 2 chorus on and speaking, then let's bring in a guest. I guess the only thing that also still made it feel like old SNL is, did anyone notice that did anyone else feel like the sketch was about to end at a certain point? Like it felt like too late of a point to bring in a guest, but it didn't hurt it. Like, I don't think anything the sketch did hurt it, but did anyone else kind of get a feeling like, okay, so like, but right before they were going to call in like Andrew, that it was sort of like a kind of cooling down?
I did for sure. And I thought that last beat really just like was a cherry on top to the sketch, because it pivoted. It wasn't more of the same, right? If you think back to, like I'm trying to think of the other sketches, like the Dionne Warwick, stuff that Ego did, which I did like, but it was sort of, in that cookie cutter talk show format of like, we're going to bring on guest 1, they're going to leave, then guest 2, they're going to leave, guest 3 is going to come on, or even like Brian Fellows or something like that. Like, those type of SNL talk shows that are sort of follow that thing, where this was a little bit unexpected. Like I didn't watch this thinking, oh yeah, they're going to bring on guest 1, 2, and 3. I thought maybe that they were just going to communicate with the sidekick, and then they're going to, and then, oh, whoa, like they're bringing in a guest here. And then they like ended it on a high. Like, I mean, look, that last line here that they did, this whole thing for me was so hilarious.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh my God! My friend having sex with his home.
Yeah, it's just
go ahead. No, you do. You go.
Exactly. Like when I thought it was like even the hint of like, oh, this is probably when SNL was going to end it. What do we have? Like what, a 3 to 5 minute sketch? This one was actually a little over 5.5 minutes, which I think is a little longer than SNL sketches of like now. But it made me, when you were talking about your idea of like, we could see this come back, I was like, oh, this is an easy slide in for a Pedro Pascal, a Bad Bunny. Like this is an easy slide in for like our different hosts who have like families from like other countries. Like I think this is a great setup because it's such an instant win as a star maker for Marcelo, a great collaboration piece for him. Like there's so many things about this that work. You have Keenan there as your assistant. By the way, I just want to say, Keenan talking about, I think Keenan said his son was 5 years old, but he didn't have any job, no house, no nothing. And I thought that was funny because it reminded me of for any In Living Color fans back in that show, there was a sketch about Jamaicans always having just an increasing number of jobs. And I always thought it kind of just reminded me of like that stereotype that came from like that show.
Well, Marcelo, and he was like,
kids so far apart.
A 51-year-old and a 5-year-old. I was like, I literally had to pause the show because I was too focused on doing math in my head of that I missed like a minute of the show. But I enjoyed it very thoroughly. I thought it was really fun. I also just want to call out one thing no one else said, which I think we all appreciated. Actually, I don't know. But it's this thing Marcelo can do where it's like his physicality gets very great and he starts to get very rubbery like Jim Carrey, but it's not a Jim Carrey thing, it's very much him. Is when they're talking about the $2,000 like to pay to get coffee in Brooklyn, and he hits this one line with this speed that's like, oh, no one else can do that. Like I'm sure somebody else can, but like Marcelo is the only person on the show that can hit that speed where it's almost like he wants to start speaking Spanish, but he's like, there's like he said, like my son loves to go to Brooklyn. Like I can't hit that cadence, and that's like I can do things with my voice, but not that. And I thought that tiny specific thing was just another piece that was like, oh, this is a Marcelo sketch. Like I love the attention and like focusing out on him. Especially I know he was just on the Tonight Show and did a stand-up piece in a crazy weird suit recently. So it's really fun because I'm like, oh, is this our next not Pete Davidson in terms of celebrity, but is this our next, are we seeing our next star maker kind of like happen? Like, and so I thought that was really fun. Yeah.
I think so. And can I say the other thing I think I really like about the sketch is like, for all the talk that we've had about SNL and like the types of comedy they like to cover, I don't think that this is an area that they explore too much, which is, I'm trying to find the right way to word this because like I don't have immigrant parents, but I understand, the context of a lot of this stuff. And I think that there is like a general idea that, younger people, younger generations are more, conscious of other, religions and backgrounds and beliefs, and we're more accepting of the world. But that older generations, parents and grandparents, they're old fashioned. And there's, we may be like, oh, you can't say that now, but they're never really going to change because they lived, 50 years or 80 years a certain way. And I think that there's a lot of comedy to be explored in not just immigrant dads, but ignorant dads. And I think that there's a balance there between these characters that really works here. So when you see, I'm not encouraging all fathers to kiss their sons on the lips, but when you see
come on, man,
and you get the utter disgust, the like, oh, like that to me is something I feel like everybody can ride with, because you might be like, oh, like whatever, it's just a father that loves his son, but everyone like is not only laughing at the thing, but they're laughing at the dad being disgusted by the thing. So I just think, to me, this is a great idea for a sketch overall, and there's a lot of layers to why this works so well. Anyone else got anything on it, or should we keep going? Okay, let's go with with Zoe, who wants to talk about another sketch. So Zoe, where are we gonna go next?
Hello. Okay, you have to help me if I forget anything, but we are talking about Team Captain, which is the sketch about the basketball team where Ramy is the team captain and Keenan is the coach who sent some unfortunate and some concerning texts that were meant for his wife to his teenage basketball team that had to do with him and a cat and some things I don't need to talk about. And how it was just about the team captain, Ramy, hyping up the team for the rest of the game because they were all a little bit traumatized and a social worker is there. But what I think the highlight of the sketch was Devin's face, because Devin was the son of Keenan's coach who was so traumatized. But I thought it was so impressive how he was just holding those faces with the camera zoomed in on him, didn't break at all, and how I felt like that added so much to the sketch. Even though it was something that was so small, I think it just made me laugh a lot. And I thought it was one of the stronger sketches of the night, even though it's not my personal favorite kind of humor.
I agree. I mean, I think this was pretty good because we do a lot of sex stuff on SNL and like kink stuff, but the whole idea of like, what it's like to have to be on a team that, or any kind of sport where your dad or your mom is the coach, and then, or like someone in your family is the coach, and then like, you have to see like how they become sort of like a parental figure to your teammates and the types of things that occur, I think is an interesting place to start. And they chose to go down the path here of like, what's Devin's POV as he's watching his dad pee in a litter box and send it to all of his friends. I think like, there's something there. So for me, I thought that this was pretty good. TJ, how do you feel about it? Team captain.
This one was a little tough because I'm growing every day, John. I'm learning about new things, and I've watched a lot of like speaking of like kinks and sex stuff. Like I've watched a lot of documentaries about stuff that like about communities about that I don't know a lot about, but I'm just like, hey, I don't know, I'm curious about things and just want to like learn more stuff. So I'll watch this random documentary on Max or on Netflix. And so I've heard of this, which I can't remember the term of it, but there are like people who enjoy sort of like a role playing like as an animal. Like I know that that's like a thing. And so two things came to my mind. One is like, oh, so they're not exactly making fun of the people in the sketch. They're acknowledging the realistic thing of like a high school basketball coach. Like, even if he's not in the privacy of his own home, like what if his team of like young boys found out? So that explains why this is social worker, but it's not really making fun of Keenan, even though Keenan is staring hard in a pervert this season. Like no one's talking about it, but that is an arc of like, I want Mike's numbers on like I want the Keenan pervert numbers for this season. Like that's what I want to hear. But like,
but is he a pervert in this sketch?
He's listed as a pervert. He's not, but he's listed as one at the end of the sketch because it says like pervert wins or some pervert victory or something. Remember at the end, there's like a newspaper. I think it says pervert victorious. So
yeah, see, that journalist that wrote that, I don't think he's a pervert. I think he just sent the wrong text to the wrong person.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about the role play necessarily. I'm talking about Keenan's portrayal. And so I think the sketch is also realistic. Like about like how it would impact a group of young men that are still learning. Like Gen Z is so much more open-minded than like even myself, honestly, like a 30-year-old millennial. Like that's for sure. Like they're much more open-minded about things, but like even a group of like teenage boys is still a group of teenage boys. Like, so some things like it's really gonna take them a minute. Because teenage boys can also be the most brutal men on the planet, like real talk. And so I appreciate it like this angle because I think that's a difficult dance, and like you could easily make fun of that. Like I could see that going that direction, but I thought it was an interesting angle to take of like not yucking someone's yum, even though that yum is definitely not for everybody. But instead, let's talk about like, hey man, I saw you bent over like in a litter box, my guy. Like I know that's your thing. You do it in the privacy of your own home, man. Hey, I respect that. That's what you love to do, but I didn't need to see pictures of it. You know what I'm saying? Like. Let's talk about it, but it's so I thought it was kind of like a cool angle, but yeah, Devin's face definitely like made it or break. I did think the social worker popping up for 2 seconds was that got me. That was such a fun surprise that caught me.
Here's the
don't mind me, just making sure everybody feels safe.
Yeah, I just thought it was a little joyous, but it was a cool sketch. It was all right. All
right, Rachel, what do you think of this one?
I think I kind of matched TJ's opinion. I'm glad you brought up the social worker. That was a highlight for me too. I just thought JJ so embodies a state-appointed social worker specifically. If I were to imagine one and draw one, it's exactly what I would think he would look like. And just like, yes, they're teenage boys, but there's also a certain type of innocence about playing basketball in high school, and then to contrast that with the exact opposite here. And then the fact when they started saying the line all together of what the coach always say, I thought that was great that they all knew exactly what he said in the wrong context, but then like the chorus of it really kind of made it a lot stronger. But yeah, overall, I think it was an okay sketch. It kind of like part of me wondered if it needed to be a long drawn out sketch or if it could have just been I don't know, like a bit of something bigger that like there was this I don't know about that, but like it could have just been like there was an accidental text, like I don't know, I'm thinking about the TikTok, the what's it called, the hot teacher Pedro Pascal, where there was Yes, fan cams. Like I felt like there were more levels there, whereas this was kind of not that it was the same joke. It did keep growing, but it just didn't. I don't know. I just don't feel like there was as much escalation. Although there was
Yeah.
some, I think JJ was the escalation.
Can I ask, do you guys think that the sketch would work better if Keenan played it embarrassed, or the fact that he was just like, confident about it, and he was sort of saying,
20 years of marriage, fellas. You need to mix it up sometimes.
like he
Yeah,
was
no,
playing it
confident was the way to go. Confident was
You
for
think so? Yeah.
sure. You got like, and also I think if you play it embarrassed, I think you risk. Oh man,
Right.
this is difficult. You risk shaming people, and I think this is really hard. And in today's era, you do want to not necessarily shame people, but like let's also act out like if you did see your like you don't want to shame somebody, but if you did see your friend or your coach ass up in kitty litter, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying, dog. That's all I'm saying. Like it's just like do
mean-
you, but like
I mean, TJ.
This naughty kitty craves discipline.
like I'm just it's like it's like watching Chelsea. It's like if you knew Chelsea from Love Is Blind in real life and then you watched her on the show. It's hard to watch. Like it's I know only two people might catch that, but like I don't know if the Love Is Blind and SNL.
Everybody gets what you're saying, for sure.
Yeah, but it's tough to watch. Okay, all right, thank you, Zoe.
All right. Well, that was fun. I mean, I want to talk about the murder detective sketch, the one that we got this week's Andrew Dismukes and August White sketch, where we get Andrew Dismukes, who comes out, got a lot of cops and detectives there to solve a murder to Mr. Turkle. And he comes out and basically is pulling his best, like CSI Miami, where he has a new catchphrase. So he says,
I think he should have ordered delivery.
and you get the real Dismukes, like, gruff in there. Should have ordered delivery. And nobody gets it, and he's very upset. And then like that to me is like I said, I don't know what it is. It's the Andrew Dismukes like secret sicko thing where in his head, I just like know he's like, nobody laughed. Why didn't they laugh? How do I get them to laugh? And it's pushed even worse when he has like a rival in the sketch, which seems to be a theme in Andrew Dismukes sketches, like from Beep Beep to this, where like somebody stands up to him and we get the rival.
Somebody wanted a pizza him.
And they all laugh at him. So right away, Andrew's not feeling it.
The hell was that?
And it's on. It is on. And I love this. I if I understood correctly, which I was listening to the Hot Take show, it didn't play so well there, but like I would have fought for this one, because for me this was absolutely fantastic. He's putting together, to me, like a reel of amazing sketches, and just the whole like when Sarah Sherman shows up, and then like he's just like, you see him like creeped over her, and he's like, cannot wait to get the line out. I died. Like it was just like I knew what this guy was thinking, and this is like the type of character that I look for from Saturday Night Live. I look for something on screen that he does it in his face, he does it in his voice. Like to me, I could see a movie made out of like the type of characters that he produces, because the anxiety that just brings so much comedy. So I love this one, the Murder Detective sketch. Rachel, what do you think?
Wow, you've made me more enthusiastic about it than I thought I was. I just thought it was an interesting night for the word delivery, for food delivery, because in the Cut for Time sketch, it was all about delivery as well. I was like, what is it this week? Everybody must have been ordering in the last couple of weeks.
And, some would say that, Keenan also made a delivery, but in the litter box.
Bro. No. We cannot. I know you host it, but you can't keep getting away with this. This is unacceptable. There are people that listen to this
like and subscribe
with their families, John. Jesus Christ.
Sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
I thought what really made this sketch was Sarah almost breaking. I just enjoyed seeing her like struggling with it and kind of resisting and going back and forth. That really kind of made it brought it to a different, I don't know, like expecting the line coming, but not. I just thought that she was great in it. I did think that there were a lot of people in this sketch. Like we didn't need so many characters. It just was such a lineup at one point. But I mean, I feel like Dismukes has done such a great job of putting his stamp on things. Like even if he wasn't in it, we would have immediately known this was a Dismute sketch. And I feel like that's a huge credit to him, that all the beats that we're talking about, all the typical characters, and just the ridiculousness of his sketches, like the sand one and whatnot, and the beep beep. I feel like he's really shows that he has his like we know what the Dismukes marks is.
And you know what it is? It's like you know, for people, I don't know how many people are like so familiar with the concept of like Freud and, you know, id, but like Andrew's characters are id, which means like they are all about themselves all the time, and they don't have like the ability to not think about themselves. And that to me is like something I absolutely love seeing, because it's not like you're like, this person cannot really exist. Like they must understand social cues, but they don't. And like I think that he writes from that POV, and it's something that nobody else in the cast does, and that's why his place to me is so funny on the show and so perfect for what the show is looking for right now. Zoe, how did you feel about this sketch?
If it wasn't Andrew, I don't think it would have worked for me. I already love him and I'm ready to laugh when I see him on screen. So, I mean, when he had the glasses and said he should have ordered delivery, I was like, I'm laughing, but it's just because me and Andrew are close personal friends. But I thought the sketch was pretty flat other than that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Why though? Why did you think that, like, what do you feel was missing?
Because it was the same joke over and over. I thought, like, if his thing is going to be catchphrases, I wish he had said more than just he should have ordered delivery and then come back to it at the end to try to make the widow laugh or something other than just the same joke. But and then again, he is the character who gets angry about crazy things. So I don't know.
Right, but we did get that full circle moment at the end where like he basically does it again, and he's like, okay, I think I got it this time.
I'm thinking, you know, this guy should have ordered delivery.
And it's like, it is kind of different where he's like, he's ready for it. It's like he's been building up to this moment, and then there's like that little pause, and then we get the delivery. And yeah, I don't know. I get what you're saying, Zoe, but I do think that I'm all for less people in sketches when it calls for it. But I think when you have one character in a sketch that is like so like off, like they're just like so weird, it almost plays well to have everyone being like, what is wrong with this dude? So maybe that added it to me. TJ, what do you think about the sketch?
I had a hard time. This is one sketch, which I think is a good thing. Of so a little peek behind the door, air listeners. The less notes that I take, the more I'm enjoying the show. And I only wrote about like 3 lines, and they're kind of incoherent from this sketch. For some reason, I wrote "creaming your jeans" for a pun. I think somebody says "cream your jeans" at some point in the show during the sketch, or else why would I have written the phrase? I do also want to say I thought this was one of the few good buttons, that there was a good buttons in sketch of like, at the end of the sketch it's written that Sims was fired at the end. I'm like, cool, good way to end that sketch. Like that is a solid way. I know SNL has trouble with the landings, but I thought it was like a nice, concise, like simple one. But overall, I was just giggling at this sketch. Like I really was.
I thought it was just missing like he was fired in the end and became a delivery driver. Like, I thought it was just missing that last little beat, but
no, honestly, actually, no. I feel like if I saw that delivery driver, it would have like tainted it for me. Like I think it would have been, yeah.
Chad, I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I like it in concept. I think if I was like, I like it. You and I talking about it. If I would have seen the show do that, I would have been like, I don't know. But like overall, I giggled a lot at this one, because it reminds me of something that we talked about a few times, which is like there's no true like alpha on the show on SNL, but instead of an alpha, which by the way, who wants to deal with guys like that? Just they're so annoying. But like instead of that, Andrew is kind of filling this role of like the kid who still bullied kids in school, but he wasn't the one doing in sports. Like he was like the skater kid that was like probably bullying you. Like there's something about like I think this is the first time I realized how deep Andrew Dismuke's voice could get. When like that clip you played earlier, John, about the hell was that? Like that was the first time I knew Andrew Dismuke could get bass in his voice. And I'm like, I think I'm trying to make my fellow panelists laugh right now. But like it was the first time I like really was like, oh wow, like I think like he's done this enough times that he's not the version of the alpha we normally think of like a like the like alpha douche, like an Andrew Tate type of thing. He's like another type of tool that like instead of being like the most tough guy in the room, he's the guy that sucks all the air out of the room. Which like that's another type of alpha because he's like it's like a special type of jerk. And I think Andrew is able to fill that role well because it's someone who's still willing to be sort of an antagonist to a host who might be like an Adam Driver, like a Michael B. Jordan. So I think we don't need that alpha, that Will Ferrell, because I think Dismukes could fit that in like sort of like in an alt comedy, not alt comedy, sorry, in alt type of way. I don't know what I'm talking about, but there does seem to
But
be
there's a
something
huge
that's
difference,
there.
though. I'll say between like you know when you're talking about somebody like a Will Ferrell, like who could dominate the show. I think what you have there is an archetype on the show that could fit into anybody's sketches. And Andrew Dismukes, he can fit in other people's sketches. Like I do think that in the Immigrant Dad talk show sketch, he had a really funny role there, and he comes out for moments where he's that. But I don't think he can play his. And again, I'll refer to it as like an id character. Like I don't think he could play the everything is all about me character in other people's sketches. I think they only work in the Andrew written sketches, which is why he's always going to have a place on the show. But it maybe won't dominate. And that is a Will Forte quality. That is a like, hey, Will is going to dominate in the sketches that are written for him and his voice. But when he's in other people's sketches, he'll have the funny throwaway line, and it's not necessarily going to be all about Will. And I think that's where, you know, the comparison between the two makes a lot of sense.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. It also makes me think of I don't think of Andrew as limited but I guess I more think of him as someone who is able to entertain and laugh and has a place. Like I like him more because I wouldn't want an Andrew sketch to get cut like a Kyle sketch.
But
Like
you know what's fascinating is that they're not though this year. Like they're actually like if anybody's having a fantastic year, you got to throw Andrew Dismukes at the top of the list. They're giving him chances. He's consistently in a lot of sketches. Like to me, this feels like a giant leap forward. So we'll save the analytics for by the numbers on Wednesday. But you know, for me, again, another notch in his resume for this season. I would love to go around the panel right now and talk about, you know, let's do some rapid fire on anything else from the episode that we didn't get to cover yet. So, Rachel, anything on your list of notes that you want us to touch on first?
So much. I feel like everything else was also a favorite of mine.
All right, well, we'll pick like one thing.
Just to pick out a couple. I thought that Chloe's Piper Duster was a creative way to hit hot topic issues that are so prominent, like Kate Middleton. How do you cover that while being respectful? But they put that. The getting punched in the face, and then threw in like the weird George Santos and Titanic submersive. I thought it was a great way to address all these hot topics in a way that was, I don't want to call it tasteful, but in a way that was suitable and non-offensive. And of course, I love that there was a Lance Bass shout out at the end, as you and I have talked about. I'd like to think I'll put it out there in the universe and somebody out there in the SNL world was listening or reading.
Yes, Rachel did recently interview Lance Bass. I'll say it for you.
That's cool. Hey, congrats.
Yeah,
a little random, but yes. And then
can I say I'm happy you brought this up, Rachel, before we just jump to something else, because with all love to Chloe, this may have been my favorite thing she's ever done on Weekend Update. I'm totally serious about that. I think that this was like really strong. It didn't venture into too campy or too like out there in, you know, dramatic character work. Like I really felt like, and I'm not saying like exclusively that's bad, but it's just like this felt like really well written, like from beginning to end. Like it felt like it had a point. I think she was the perfect person to play this role. I love that they went back and forth between the pre-tapes and her, and I felt like the interaction between her and Colin was really strong. Like I don't know, like the bar there for me, like I was like, oh, okay, like I was a little skeptical, and I think she nailed it personally.
I really want to know how this hits with like a 25 and under audience specifically, because
Zoe,
I wanted to ask Zoe how old she was, but I didn't want to be impolite. So Zoe, are you Gen Z? Are you is that your generation?
Yes, that is me.
How did you? Yeah,
I thought it was funny. I knew all the things that she was referencing because I spend like way too much time on TikTok. So I was like, okay, Kate Middleton, and see the millennial commenters on YouTube on TikTok as often, but really when she said punch in the face, I was like, that's what I was watching on TikTok this week. And shout out to all the people in New York. I hope you're safe.
You know, it's so
But
crazy.
yeah, I just got all the references. I don't know. I didn't think it was the best thing I've ever seen Chloe in, but we can't expect that from her every week.
No, I don't mean best thing on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think best thing she's done on Update. Like
Yeah. And I did think it was fun to see her stretch outside of an impression and do a character on Update. And I also thought it was refreshing that she wasn't like beating up on Colin the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
Zoe, how did you feel about the format of them constantly switching to the vertical like TikTok thing? Like, did you feel like it was pandering to like a younger generation, or did you feel like it fit given the content that they put inside the sketches? Like, I'm really wondering how you felt about like how it was like set up and how they chose to go to that format.
Yeah, I thought it made complete sense. I didn't even notice until I was listening to the Hot Take Show that was like a new groundbreaking thing, switching back and forth. I was just like, yeah, it makes sense. Show her TikToks. We're talking about her TikToks. Of course you have them.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, in that case, then I'll look at it a little more positive. I think I was looking at it with more of a. I thought it came off across as pandering, but if the younger generation doesn't see it that way, if they think it more fits, then I can get with that. I can be like, okay, so that is the way that it is now, rather than them trying to. Because we've seen this a couple times where like SNL will do TikTok vertical format, and sometimes it feels a little awkward. But I guess it's like, okay, like someone was feeling forced, but if it doesn't feel forced anymore, then I can rock with it.
Okay, let's be a little bit more rapid fire with this. So, Rachel, what else was on your list that you wanted to get to?
Sorry. The NPR sketch, which I know not a lot of people like, the Tiny Desk. I wouldn't say I'm a wannabe NPR fan. I listen to it in my car, but I live in Jersey and the city, so I'm not in my car enough to know all the things. But I just thought there were so many little throws, like the like Bowen being the 35-year-old intern, and like Ira and Terry, Glass and Gross, and this is NPR. Every day is a big deal for us. There were so many great lines in this. And I've always wanted a sketch called This Could Have Been an Email. And I just love that it was used. And I feel like that could totally be a sketch. All these scenes that could have been an email. And the only thing that kind of lost me was that the beep, boop, I'm gay now didn't quite parallel the wait, don't tell me. And almost felt like there was a lack of laughs. I thought it maybe needed to be more direct, like, wait, don't tell me, stop, I know this, or something like that. That was more direct. But
that hit me so hard.
Oh, really?
But I didn't know what it was referencing. I didn't know it was referencing
okay.
anything. It was just beep boop, I'm gay now. I like, as a blanket statement with no context, I was like, that's funny. Like it had me howling.
I felt like he had explained it a little too much, and then there was like a hanging silence in the air when he was explaining it. I was like, a little, I don't know, but it was a funny statement on its own if it wasn't trying to parody the show. But
beep boop, I'm gay now. Like
I thought this one was interesting because, like, for me, the Tiny Desk concerts, like my familiarity, like Justin Timberlake just did a Tiny Desk. I know Usher did one. Like, some of the biggest name artists in the world do these concerts for NPR, and you could go watch them on YouTube. And I think that the irony of these concerts is, like, you have the biggest artists in the world performing at like a tiny desk. And so I think the expectation is that if you're familiar with the concept, that is something you would see here. And it was weird where we sort of had like a no-name, like non-existent artist, like Ramy's playing Jonah Hughes here, backed by Nev and Goose, like Chloe Trost and JJ. So it's sort of like, hey, like it's almost like a coffee shop art, like performer is performing at a tiny desk. So that to me was like a little bit lost in the writing. But then it turned into a Bowen piece where in what is a good amount of comedy. I mean, Bowen is basically we're trying to record a podcast next door, like an NPR podcast next door to the tiny desk, and that itself is really funny. But I just don't know if it all clicked together and came together the way that they wanted it to, because there were elements here that worked, but I don't know if it fully connected. So, did you like this tiny desk one?
I thought it was fun just because I recognized Tiny Desk. I love watching those videos. The one thing I really wished was that Bowen had a partner in this. It made me like long for the times when he would do things with AD or Cecily, and it made me wish he had like a playmate in this specific sketch to like a co-host for the podcast. So there was two people. I think it might have been funnier if it was two people who were irritated about the Tiny Desk concert rather than just Bowen alone again.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Zoe, anything on your list that we didn't cover tonight that you would like us to talk about?
Um, I just think the Ozempic sketch was cool. I thought it was a funny take on Ozempic. That's all I have.
Yeah, that was pretty solid for me too, as well. I mean, I know that SNL's done a lot of like, takes on medical commercials, but obviously Ozempic's been like a big deal for a while. And I think for, you have the right host in to do the Ramadan Ozempic thing. And my understanding is that this was something that, really clicked with a lot of people. So I think this was solid. TJ, you got anything on this one?
Yeah, two things. One, I know it was like, auto tune and stuff like that, but I did appreciate the Travis Scott performances. I thought I was going to be like, oh, rapper on SNL, they never do as well, but I liked it. Like, I think because he used auto tune, I thought it was kind of fun. And I thought that it was kind of like, I like the camera angles in his second performance. I thought that was like a really fun thing. I was like, oh, this must be why they see this guy. Like, I like some Travis Scott, but I'm like, I see why people might want to see him live because he seems like somebody who wants to put on a production. So just, I had much more fun with this performance than I thought I was going to. Versus listening to a song. And also, I just want to shout out Ramy's monologue specifically to, to like pivot some like really good stand-up as well, and being able to incorporate the message of the encouragement to free Palestine and free the hostages, like to incorporate that, like while also like doing what I thought was a really solid joke about the whole thing with going to pray about like the people of Palestine, the hostages, and his friend who is in a custody battle in court with his ex and a dog. Like, I thought that was like a really fun juggle, and like because it is like it is a really like serious topic that's going on in the world, and I was wondering if he was going to talk about it, and not in the sense of like, oh, I want him to. I don't care, in the sense of like, I don't need every single person to like speak on every single thing, but I'm glad he did because I thought he did it well. And I thought there's a million ways to do it poorly. I think he nailed it. I don't know if some people would I'm not trying to like put a devices this in, but I just was like, I know this is very serious. And I think it seemed like a good writing and good judging and a good performance and very respectful overall.
Yeah.
And funny. And funny.
Yeah, I agree. I think no matter, how you feel about everything, I think all you can ask for somebody to do is that if they're going to go on national television and talk about these things or incorporate them into their stand-up, that they're authentic about it. And
Yeah,
I got
absolutely.
no doubt that, he is the type of guy that just seems like genuine, warm, has a big heart, and just wants like peace, and that's the
Yeah.
type of thing that I think came through. And he still made everybody laugh. And like, to me, that was the best of both worlds. So I thought it was an amazing monologue. I totally agree. Rachel, before we move on from this episode, I'll just ask you to wrap it up. Any thoughts on the Ozempic commercial or what TJ just brought up with the monologue?
I think the Ozempic commercial is such a great way to take something that's so overdone in pop culture, but make it fresh and relevant and specific for the host and time and
Yeah.
the timing as well. It was just like a clever all around, and I loved the beats with Ego in the office and Keenan in the at the cart. I thought both. It was just so the little. Yeah, it was just all three great bits. Oh, and then Dismukes too, right? I forgot about that as the convert. I just thought all of it was just really well done.
Did anyone else short circuit for just a quick second when you saw Dismukes in that sketch? You were like, Andrew, what are you doing? Like, wait, what? Like, am I the only one that like it took me a second to stick? Like, I guess because I see Keenan and Ego in Dismukes' face so often. So like having Ramy in here was no problem. But like you just wish that like
Yeah.
you kind of it was that time you wish a Nassim Prajad or somebody was like around. It was a little hard to like. I know that Disney was supposed to be a convert, but it was a little tough for me for the immersion piece.
Yeah, TJ, you were like,
The hell was that?
I also just want to say that
Sure.
the Ramy monologue actually, for me, it had a little bit more perspective because I don't know if it's happening every day, but I was on 14th Street in New York City on Saturday, and that I was playing Pokemon Go, and Heather and I were doing something, and I was walking, and like there was a large protest going on, and there was just like an armada like of police officers, like a drastically large, like vans on vans on vans of like NYPD vans of like police officers, for the most part managing the crowd, but there's also like the crowd is also like shouting the officers, and it was, it was very it was very like intense environment, but like so far when I was there, it was, spirited, but like, peaceful,
Yeah.
but like, angry, of course. And so to see that monologue that night, like it was like very fresh in my mind. Like you're in New York City, just like a few blocks up. Like I knew that was going on throughout the day. I saw people on the subway like coming from the protest rally walk. I'm not sure what the right term is, but that was so for him to speak on that, it was also like fresh in mind at that time.
Yeah, sure. And I'm sure a lot of people did feel that way. All right, well, let's wrap up our coverage of this Ramy episode by talking about the MVPs from this week of Saturday Night Live. So Ramy was in 8 sketches for the night. Travis Scott was in 2 performances, was also in that PDD sketch. We had Playboy Cardi, who was a feature on the second performance. JAJ won the night in terms of 5 sketches. We had 4 sketches from Mikey, Andrew, and Sarah. Keenan was in 3 sketches. So was Ego. Chloe Fineman was in 2 sketches and did a voiceover. Heidi also in 2 sketches. And Heidi Gardner, congratulations on your 500th SNL sketch appearance. Appeared in the Couple Goals sketch, and that was her 500th. Only 30 SNL cast members in its history have ever gotten to 500 sketches. So huge congrats to her. I was there and I got to celebrate with Heidi, and we have some really fun stories from Heidi's celebration. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday night with Mike, and we'll get into everything for that one, but it was really, really special night. So 500 sketches for Heidi, but she was in 2 this evening. Only 1 sketch for Bowen and 1 for Punky. Colin Jost, obviously, and Michael Che on Weekend Update were just there for the featured players. 3 sketches from Marcelo, 2 from Michael Longfellow and Devin Walker. Chloe Trost was in 1 sketch and did a little bit of voiceover work in that Ozempic commercial, some background stuff. And Molly Carney was shut out from the night, our first shutout of the season. Okay, I'm going to go around. I'm going to ask you each for who you think the top 3 vote getters were for this week MVP voting. Rachel, who do you think it was?
Ooh, I just switched my picks around. I'm going to go with 3rd place Dispukes, 2nd place Ramy, and 1st place Marcelo.
Okay, so we got Marcelo, Ramy, and Dismukes. Zoe, what do you think?
Okay, 3rd place Ramy, 2nd place Dismukes, and 1st place JAJ.
Nice. Okay, we got JAJ in there. TJ, what do you think?
I think it's similar to Rachel's. I'm going to say Marcelo 1st, Ramy 2nd, Dismukes 3rd.
Yeah, so that's the same as Rachel's. So let's see. So we got JJ on the board, Dismukes on the board, Ramy, and Marcelo. Let's see if those 4 are in the top 5 and who else rounded out our MVP voting for the episode. Of course, if you ever want to vote in these polls, we put them out on Mondays. You can vote in our Instagram story or Twitter to get your thoughts into the show. And here we go. Coming up on screen, MVP for season 49, episode 15, Ramy Youssef with 25% of the vote. Andrew Dismukes, 21% of the vote, comes in 2nd. Marcelo in 3rd with 17% of the vote. JAJ with 13%. And Chloe Fineman 5% with 6% of the vote comes in 5th place. So you guys nailed the top 4 in whatever order, but Chloe Fineman was our 5th there. So congrats to Chloe. Great job on Weekend Update this week. Ramy, Andrew, Marcelo, JAJ, and Chloe Fineman. All right, so for this episode of the podcast, we're going to close the book on Ramy's episode, but we still have a little bit more to talk about because one of my favorite cast members of all time is coming back to host next week, and I can't wait to celebrate her. Kristen Wiig is coming to host the show and is doing it for the 5th time, officially the 5th time she is hosting the show, entering the 5 Timers Club. I remember where I was when I saw Kristen Wiig become a cast member on the show, and I was like, oh my God, this girl is unbelievable. Just amazing. Comes out of the gate with characters, with impressions, takes over the show, inspires female comedians, male comedians, everybody, inspires everybody for generations. I think she's a Mount Rushmore cast member, and I'm so excited that she gets her due next week. So excited to talk about that one. Rachel, what are your thoughts and expectations for Kristen Wiig coming back to host the show?
I am excited to have her too. I was more of a watch every episode once person during her era, so I am not as familiar with her time on the show. But when she was just on with, she was on Kate McKinnon's episode, right? I just immediately was like, oh my God, I got to go back and watch all of these. I feel like there's something so relatable about her that just makes her immediately feel like she's a friend, which just, I don't know. There's something very every woman about her. So I'm really excited about the sketches that she's going to bring.
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, like Kristen Wiig was so popular when I was in high school that every single time she did a character on a weekend, we would show up to school and people were imitating that character like all over the place. Like there was like it was Kristen Wiig mania. And I don't know if that translated, you know, now that we're been far removed from, you know, 2012 where she left the show. So we're going back, you know, almost 12 years since we had that, you know, famous moment with Lauren and Kristen Wiig dancing together as she departed the show. But seriously, she was so beloved and, you know, known for many recurring characters that I am excited to speculate on what we might see this weekend. Zoe, what are your thoughts as Kristen Wiig returns to SNL?
I'm so excited. I know I'm young, but when I think of SNL, I think of her era. And I'm just excited to see some recurring characters because I'm always happy to see her when I see her. So I'm ready to laugh.
Yeah, I'm very pumped for this one for sure. TJ, what are your thoughts as Kristen Wiig returns to the show this week?
I mean, I think it's a slam dunk. I think I'm feeling, and I don't love this. I don't like that I feel like this. A part of me is feeling a teeny bit like sort of the fun of it is ruined because Kristen was just back 3 months ago with Kate McKinnon, and she was in a few sketches of that episode. And it's nothing bad. I'm not trying to Andrew Dick this take. Like I noticed that like when I saw it, I wasn't like I reacted when I saw Kate's like booking. I was like I'm like excited. It was more like good, reliable episode. I do want to say I hope we don't see that secret word sketch again. I'm a little sick of it by now. Like I don't need to see that secret word, but like other than that, like Kristen Wiig is one of the funniest American women like of our time. Like I wouldn't be surprised if I did. I'd be shocked if I didn't see her win a Mark Twain award at some point in her lifetime. Like she's belongs up there with Tina Fey, Carol Burnett. Like she's hilarious. And I'm excited for it. I don't know if they're going to do a 5-timers. Like wait, is she the most recent woman to enter? She's the most recent woman to be inducted in a while, right?
Well, Emma Stone was earlier this season, but
yeah. So we had a 5-timer already. We had Kristen, so it feels like some of the magic.
It still is special though. Look, I encouraged it when Emma Stone entered the 5-timers club. I encouraged it. I said like, bring back all the women who are in the 5-timers club. Bring back Drew Barrymore, Melissa McCarthy. Like I want to see, you know, Candice Bergen and Tina Fey. Like I want to see it. I know they were there for that one, but I want to see them all together. Like I think that's a special moment. You know, will it happen given that Kristen is a former cast member? Also, like sometimes I feel like they don't necessarily like make it as much about the 5-timers moment when it's a cast member that enters the 5-timers club, because they've had like so many, you know, it's really like 5-timers club was sort of a host thing. Like it was a big deal that Tom Hanks, like, you know, made this club and, you know, the people that were in it. But, you know, if I had one wish for this weekend, it would be that I would like to see some Kristen Wiig characters that we haven't seen in a very long time. So you know, give me Penelope. You know, that's a character we have not seen since she was a cast member on the show. I think that would crush this weekend. On the update desk, give me like Judy Grimes or Aunt Linda. Like, give me somebody that we haven't seen. Like, I don't need to see Secret Word or Surprise Lady Sue or Garth and Kat.
Target Lady.
You know, well, even Target Lady, she hasn't done, I think, since 2013. I know those sketches are super popular, but like that one, you know, I don't mind. Like, you know, the pipe dream, which I don't think is going to happen, but if I had to beg, it would be like
2 a-holes.
Yeah, give me the 2 a-holes. Like that to me is an all-time great one. So I would love to see those. Like I just think that she has, like, people forget because they talk about like the Gillies and you know, the Surprise Lady and the Target Lady a lot, that she has like a lot of great characters that we haven't seen in a long time. And I think that she could do some really cool things. Getting to talk to some of the writers this past weekend at the show when I was hanging out there, they told me that like some of them have some ideas in their back pocket that they were like, oh, you know, Kristen Wiig's coming in, like she would be really good for that. So I think we could get some inspired writing this weekend, and I'm excited to see what we're going to get from that one. So really looking forward to covering that on Saturday night. Before we get there, we do have one more show. That will be our By the Number show on Wednesday night, where I will be live with Mike Murray and James Stevens. We're all in New York together. So we'll talk about our trip. We'll talk about what it was like being backstage at Saturday Night Live. And we had some really fun conversations with the people there. So if you are curious about how all that stuff works, I think you'll enjoy checking us out on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. But, you know, that show is our number show. So, of course, we will be there to discuss the screen time, power rankings, and all the analytics from the week. And then for the patrons, if you're a patron of the podcast, you can join at patreon.com/the SNL Network. I will post a poll tomorrow to ask you which sketch you want me to talk about even further. I'll have a fun guest on with me. We're going to rewatch it and discuss it in great detail for the patrons. And that will be out this Thursday as well. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Anything you would like to plug that you've been working on?
Thank you so much. Well, besides Lance Bass, last time I was on, I wasn't able to say that I had just interviewed Colin Jost and Michael Che for Travel and Leisure, and it was absolutely amazing. Like I felt like I had my own weekday update with them, and so definitely check that out. There's some SNL tidbits in there, and then I had previously interviewed Chloe Feynman, so that story also has some great SNL tidbits. I do have to say, related to this episode, I was really bummed that the weekend update sketch with Michael Longfellow and Devin's sketch didn't make it to air. That has been my dream. When I saw the two of them on stage in Brooklyn, I can't remember which venue, I took a picture and sent it to a few people. I was like, this is the future weekend update co-host. And so that is my dream future for the show. So I was really excited that they did new Colin and new Che, and I hope that comes back.
Yes, so that was a cut weekend update feature, which on the Hot Take Show, we usually discuss what was cut. That was like basically Colin Jost and Michael Che reboots. I know they worked really hard on that one. I think we might see that one back on the show sometime soon. That's my feeling, is that we're going to get that one. So I'm excited for when that does come. And Rachel, I'm glad you got to see it and you thought it was fantastic. So, or you at least heard about it.
I heard about it.
Yeah,
I saw them out in Brooklyn just riffing off each other. I just thought they've got something.
Yes. So can't wait to see that one whenever it does come together. Zoe Walker, thank you for joining us tonight. Anything you want to say to the listeners?
Thank you for listening. I had a lot of fun, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Love the tiny microphone. You got to bring it back. So that was great. TJ, what are you cooking on your podcast right now?
Oh, actually, just want a quick nod to Zoe's mic. It's giving Straw Hat Goofy. It's giving YouTuber that I'm about to watch an 1.5 hour long video essay of. So shout out to Tiny Mics everywhere. They have a niche and they fit. People will tape them to their Metro card and interview a brother on the subway. All right, but on my podcast, Rabbit Trail, that's RABID, which you can find on all podcast platforms. Next, we have an episode every single Monday, and next Monday is one of my favorites because we are complaining about driving. It's all driving complaints. So for those of us who are out there driving in the road, in these streets, it's going to feel validating, especially if you've driven in New Jersey. Oh boy, do I have some fire for this state, which I think has some of the worst driving out there in the streets. So really a lot of spirited. It's a 15-minute podcast. So it's really fun for if you're about to vacuum, do some dishes. Really hope you enjoyed the show. We talked about things like flakiness, relationships with crying, gift giving. We'll talk about whatever because it's just my friends and I chatting about whatever it is that we want to for 15 minutes, or them telling me, TJ, we're at 17 minutes, 18 minutes. We got to end we got to end. I
am not surprised.
Whatever. Again, that's Rabbit Trail. That's RABID. You can find us at We Are Rabbit Trail at gmail.com, or you can also find us at We Are Rabbit Trail on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can reach out to me, TJ, at King Compliment on Instagram. King Compliment on Instagram.
Yeah, thanks so much. And honestly, I could relate to the whole New Jersey driving thing because I was driving back yesterday, and I almost turned onto the Lincoln Tunnel, and it would have been a huge mistake. So,
yeah,
that would have been bad.
This episode's for you, John. It's for you.
I'll check it out for sure. I mean, as far as other stuff that's happened here on the SNN recently, really, really proud of the 2 SNL stories we put out in this last, between this block. I spoke to Christine Ebersol, an incredible cast member from the early 80s that, was not on the show long enough, but ended up having an amazing career outside the show. So we got some really fun stories from her, including one of the most interesting hiring stories I've ever heard in my life. I think we put together a clip on that. So that was very fun. And then we spoke to one of my favorite people in the world, and that would be Bobby Moynihan. And he just hung out and told some more stories. So if you want to go check out that podcast as well, that's available everywhere on the SNN, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, to make sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. And you can also follow us on all social platforms at the SNL Network, Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram. So you see all the content we are producing. And you can follow me at Jon Schneider 24 as well. All right. Thanks to everybody who joined us in this chat on this Monday night. And thank you to latenighter.com for all of their support of this show, the great podcasting partner that we have, producing partner of the show. Thank you to Rachel Chang, Zoe Walker, and TJ as well for joining us tonight. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.